So, dann schon mal herzlich willkommen an alle Anwesenden heute. Ich denke, wir werden jetzt noch so 1, 2 Minuten warten, dass wir so um 5 nach ungefähr loslegen können. Vielleicht kommen noch ein paar Leute. Dann gibt es erstmal einen kurzen Überblick von mir, wie wir weiter vorgehen, bevor die Action dann wirklich startet. So, ich würde sagen, wir starten dann mal so langsam. Was haben wir heute Abend vor? Also erstmal herzlich willkommen zu unserem Event Krisen und ihre Chancen für Startups. Unsere Agenda sieht wie folgt aus. Wir wollen mit einer kurzen Begrüßung beginnen und erstmal die Anwesenden vorstellen. Das Ganze wird noch in Deutsch erfolgen. Danach gibt es dann eine Präsentation der Use Cases. Das heißt, jeder der Speaker hat ein oder mehrere Use Cases vorbereitet und heute mitgebracht. Die werden überwiegend in Englisch vorgestellt. Patrick wird seinen nochmal in Deutsch vortragen. Aber die Diskussion spätestens dann, der sogenannte Fireside-Chat wird ausschließlich in Englisch erfolgen. Und im Anschluss gibt es dann auch eine kurze Q&A-Session. Ich würde sagen, in erster Linie wird sie Englisch sein, wenn sich die Fragen an Galia und Monika richten. An Patrick können die Fragen aber selbstverständlich auch in Deutsch gestellt werden. Ihr habt während des gesamten Events die Möglichkeit, im Chat Fragen zu stellen. Ich werde die in meiner Moderation dann versuchen, immer wieder einzuwerfen, wenn sich mal die Möglichkeit dafür gibt. Und ansonsten werde ich sie dann in der Q&A-Session am Ende den entsprechenden Leuten stellen. Ich würde euch dazu aber bitten, wenn ihr Fragen an eine bestimmte Person habt, dann einfach noch den Namen dabei schreiben, also an welchen Speaker sie gerichtet werden soll. Gut, dann würde ich sagen, fangen wir an. Wir beenden jetzt dafür erstmal die Präsentation, damit ihr dann die Anwesenden auch tatsächlich live sehen könnt. Und ich würde erstmal mit der Vorstellung von Patrick anfangen. Patrick ist ehemaliger WI-Student der DHBW in Stuttgart. Er hat seinen Abschluss 2012 gemacht. Der duale Partner war damals die Allianz. Er ist dann nach dem dualen Studium auch erstmal dort geblieben, hat da eine Karriere eingeschlagen, hat es auch sehr, sehr weit gebracht, war am Ende Global Head of Compliance, Transformation and Innovation, hat die Leitung von der digitalen Transformation im Bereich Compliance in über 70 Ländern geleitet und ist seit im letzten Jahr, seit 2020, in erster Linie in der selbstständigen Beratung unterwegs und da berät er dann große Unternehmen, Startups, Investoren und alles im Bereich der Compliance. Darüber hinaus ist er noch ein Startup Angel, das heißt, unterstützt in erster Linie Startups, ist Public Speaker und ist auf ganz, ganz vielen Events unterwegs. Also deswegen bin ich super happy, dass wir ihn heute begrüßen können. Und ich würde das Wort jetzt auch direkt an Patrick übergeben, der dann die anderen beiden nochmal vorstellt. Die kennen sich schon ganz gut mittlerweile.
Jonas, vielen lieben Dank für die nette Einführung und vielen Dank auch an DHBW, dass wir hier heute diese Themen diskutieren können, weil es natürlich zum einen eine schwierige Zeit ist, aber wir haben beschlossen, dass wir das Ganze ein bisschen anders mal darstellen wollen, von eher positiven Seite. Und darum geht es heute auch im Wesentlichen. Auch vielen lieben Dank an Kristin Brüning von der DHBW, die das Ganze auch mitorganisiert hat. Also auch mal herzlichen Dank an Sie. Ich bin ganz happy, dass wir heute in der Runde zusammenkommen. Zum einen natürlich als ehemaliger DHBWler, wie gesagt schon ein paar Jahre her, aber ich habe auf dem Weg viele coole Leute kennengelernt und zwei sehr, sehr gute Freunde von mir heute auch in den Chat mit einbezogen, nachdem die Anfrage kam, worüber ich wirklich glücklich bin. Und als erste würde ich da mal gern alphabetischer Reihenfolge die Galia Westler hier mal in die Runde rufen. Galia, hallo. Galia und ich, wir haben uns letztes Jahr kennengelernt und ihr werdet sicherlich später in der Diskussion dann nochmal mehr dazu erfahren. Galias Background ist IT, sie ist eine Expertin im Bereich Blockchain mit einem interessanten internationalen Background. Also wenn es jemand gibt, der Global Nomad ist, probably, dann ist es Galia, als in Israel geboren, dann nach Kanada und jetzt hier live jetzt in Berlin zugeschaltet. Hat sie quasi schon mehrere Kontinente und alles Mögliche erlebt. Mittlerweile die dritte Firma, die sie gegründet hat, die letzte, wo ich jetzt auch mit dabei bin, und wir arbeiten seitdem zusammen in kreativen Bereichen, im Bereich Blockchain. Sehr hervorzuheben ist wirklich die Adaptivität und die Kreativität, das ist eine persönliche Meinung von mir an Galia, die sie immer wieder widerspiegelt, sodass wir jetzt beispielsweise letztes Jahr im Bereich Covid-19 tätig wurden und Solutions da auf den Markt gebracht haben. Ganz hervorzuheben natürlich ist Galia als Speakerin global präsent, hat auf der großen TEDx-Bühne schon ihre Speeches gegeben und ich habe es hier auch Top 25 der Blockchain-CEOs in einem internationalen Magazin, wo sie erschienen ist. Also Takiro et Javera Shali Galia.
All right. Dankeschön, Patrick. Dankeschön. Thank you very much for inviting me today. It's a pleasure to be here. So this is how I know that I've reached almost the B level in Deutsch. So ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch, but I was able to verstehen most everything. And I caught a mistake, Patrick. I was not geboren in Israel. I was geboren in Montreal, in Canada.
Okay, yeah.
Uh-huh, yes.
That's very good.
But
I was in Hebrew, right? That's another topic. Als zweiten Speaker haben wir Monika Aguilar Pariente. Monika? Ja, willkommen, Monika. Monika kenne ich seit über 10 Jahren und sie ist eigentlich der Grund gewesen und ist auch für euch interessant, warum ich wahrscheinlich in der Allianz geblieben bin nach dem Studium, weil sie hat mich damals, als ich mehr oder weniger fast schon die Allianz verlassen wollte, hat sie mich überredet, doch noch zu bleiben. Ja, doch. Ja. und habe mit ihr seit bestimmt dann 10 Jahren zusammengearbeitet. Monika jetzt in ihrer dritten Karriere, auch very impressive Background, die Monika mitbringt. Zuerst Monika als Mexikanerin, dann in den USA an einer Elite-Uni Jura studiert, ihren JD gemacht, für eine Prestige Law Firm gearbeitet in New York, dann auch in Frankfurt und dann gewechselt zur Allianz, wo wir uns dann später dann kennengelernt haben, hat dann mehrere Senior Global Executive Rollen übernommen, unter anderem also nebenbei den kompletten Bereich oder das komplette Business für Südamerika und Nordamerika geleitet, neben anderen Topics und später dann in dem Bereich Financial Crime die globale Rolle übernommen, wo wir uns dann auch kennengelernt haben. Einer der kreativsten Köpfe überhaupt, die ich kenne. Also ich glaube, da stellt sehr, sehr viele Fragen. Sie hat viele Antworten zu den Themen. Und jetzt dann, wie ich auch, aus dem Konzern, aus dem Großen rausgegangen und arbeite jetzt mit Startups zusammen, insbesondere mit einem, was sehr, sehr Interessantes im Bereich Medical Tech. Aber Monika wird euch sicherlich in einer Sekunde dann mehr dazu erzählen. Also auch Monika, muchísimas gracias por unirte a nosotros hoy.
Patrick, ich bin wow, so begeistert. Du kannst auch jetzt Spanisch. Also ich kann ein bisschen Deutsch, aber ich werde nicht auf Deutsch reden. Aber vielen, vielen Dank. Es freut mich wahnsinnig, hier zu sein. Vielen Dank, Jonas, für die Vertrauen und das Geduld. Tut mir leid. Und vielen Dank, Patrick, dass du an mich gedacht hast.
Ja, so, Dankeschön. Und damit zurück an Jonas.
Okay, vielen Dank für diese kurze Vorstellung und ich würde dann sagen, wir starten direkt mit den Use Cases, damit wir nicht allzu viel Zeit verlieren hier. Und ich würde das Wort dann an Gallia geben. Gallia, the stage is yours. Tell us something about your use case.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you very much for inviting me. And today I'm going to talk to you about a few use cases that actually were born and created and now nourished and into being a full-blown product and different projects actually during the pandemic. So I'm going to take you back to 2020 when the month was March, around this time, about a year ago, and everybody were down. We were all down, my team and I. So I'll give you a little bit of a background because I don't understand German that well. I don't know if Patrick told you, but I'm actually a software engineer. I studied and I grew up around north of Tel Aviv. And after I graduated, I moved to Canada, which was where I was born. And I had my career. I had a really nice career in product management. For those who know what is product manager, is the person who's in charge of all the requirements, gathering them, doing some of the architecture, and working with really, really talented teams. I created now my third company, so I'm a 3-time entrepreneur. And I just happened to be on that magazine, which is very embarrassing. But if you flip through the pages, you will actually see Patrick and Anton, which are my partners. And back in 2020, about a year ago, we were all extremely, extremely down. But that is because I haven't met Patrick yet. And how did I meet Patrick? And how did I create my third company? And what happened? What was born during that awful time? All of us went into lockdown. All of us were depressed. All of us didn't know where we're going to make our ends meet. And so what did we do? We decided to narrow down. I know a lot of people, for example, in Germany, they went into Kurzarbeit, which, one would say it's a good decision. We did the same thing. My companies are incorporated in Canada. And at that time, actually 2 weeks before the lockdown started in Berlin, and right now in Berlin, I decided to move to Germany. And Germany, being an amazing country, welcomed me with open arms. And 2 weeks afterwards, I realized I actually cannot leave Germany. And my dear brother in Israel told me, Galia, planes they're not gonna run anymore and you're gonna be stuck. And in fact, I was stuck, but it was an amazing stuck experience because when we were stuck at home and we were extremely anxious about what was going to happen with this pandemic, how are we going to be able to bring more projects? Some of the projects were on hold. As you can imagine, a lot of financial stress and a lot of social stress. We decided to do the one thing that we all have to do, which is stand in this together. And so what we did is we participated in a hackathon, actually a few hackathons, one of which Patrick is going to talk to you about. We have done the global hackathon, originated in Estonia and concentrated in Europe. And we also did the global hack in Netherlands as well, my team and I. And we came up with a really cool idea of how, which today is actually a well-known idea, not because of us, because the world really does need this idea, which is how do you segregate the population between who is sick and who is not? And how do you prove your health status by tapping your phone and entering a gated area, also known as a restaurant, a conference, a hotel, an airline, an airport, which today is also known as like the green passport or any health and travel passport. So we came with this idea to make a green or health passport in a little bit of a different way. We use blockchain, we implement blockchain technology, and we decided to do it with self-sovereign identity, SSI, for the technical people in the room. And we came up with this idea and we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if it was going to be successful. And we sketched everything. You have to build some sort of a prototype in a hackathon. And then we started looking for mentors. And as we're looking for mentors, as the little hustler that I am, and if you kind of Google my name and you look at what different people are writing about me, they do write that I'm a little 1 meter and 50 centimeter hustler. And I hustled to get Patrick onto our team because I thought, Patrick, Allianz, global compliance, IT magician, for sure can help us. And not only did we were connected with Patrick, we were connected with people from the WHO that then participated in a project. And up until today, they are supporting us. We were communicating with people from the EU, with people from different big organizations, small organizations, and we added more and more mentors to our team. We did not win because from 40,000 people, it's not to say that it's hard to win, but it wasn't our time to win. Other really successful projects have won. But what a great thing that came out of this hackathon is we actually were able to win a project with the Canadian government, with University of Toronto, with a research organization called Reach and Map, again from Toronto. We were in contact with WHO, we were able to collaborate with them, and we decided to crystallize our idea, which is to create an app that allows you to identify who you are in an anonymous manner using self-sovereign identity, which means that we can verify one's credential. One is receiving a self-testing kit. So self-testing could be for COVID, but actually the use cases are also for HIV. One remains anonymous because, as you can imagine, it's really important to remain anonymous yet verified, to go through some sort of a health procedure where you don't have to divulge all of your private information, but you still want to know where you stand in terms of your health status. Then the person, after they verify the credential, they go through the test. They can push the test results directly from the device to the different organization, and it appears in a dashboard, all the demographic information that can benefit organizations such as the hospital, research organizations, WHO, the government, and many, many other parties. This exact use case actually has been implemented by IATA. IATA is the International Airlines Associations. If you guys are familiar with the IATA initiative, they're also using SSI in order to identify. They're actually expanding it to identify one's passport and credentials. They're able to identify whether or not you went through and you got a test, for example, for COVID, that your test is valid. Later on, they're going to do it for a vaccine. One can be verified if, in fact, they took the vaccine. And they go through a similar process where they can have some sort of a QR code, they tap their phone and they're able to enter a gated area after they've verified their health status, and in our case, in an anonymous manner. So the use case that I wanted to share with you today is about Go Health, or the Go app. As we call it, the reason why we call it Go is to get the economy going. And from that, we actually got other projects. Regardless of that, we have jump-started other projects that have started from before. So we actually went over the hump of really a lot of financial stress and emotional, emotional stress that everybody, I'm sure, are sharing, into pivoting a little bit and taking these opportunities with both hands. And I think this past year has been a blessed year. And it has been a blessed year, not because we have been able to go over the hump from a financial point of view and from projects point of view, but it's because we're able and are able to work on really, really interesting projects that, the original idea with this hackathons and many other hackathons during this year has been, how do you get the economy going? How are you able to assist people from around the world with technology? So being a technologist is really important. How do you come up with amazing ideas to help people that are lonely? Old people in old people's home that are very lonely and they could get sick, so they need to keep their distance. How do you keep people that are working remotely? How do you keep their tools for interaction secure and efficient? And then how do you help businesses, and how do you help the economy going by allowing someone to go through some sort of a health check or health status, but still keep them anonymous?
That was great. Thank you very much. That was a ton of information in a very short time. To the audience, feel free to ask questions anytime. Take your time. We can answer the questions in the Q&A session. Also in this session, if we have time left. But so far, we don't have any. That's why I would give the word to Patrick. And yeah, Patrick, please continue with your use case.
Ja, wie gesagt, ich werde meine auf Deutsch machen, damit wir so ein bisschen eine Balance finden zwischen Deutsch und Englisch und Galia und Monika ihre Deutschkenntnisse verbessern können. Eine Sekunde. Genau, der Use Case, den ich habe, bezieht sich aber auch, was Galia gesagt hat. Letztes Jahr war es sehr, sehr kompliziert. Und ihr könnt euch vorstellen, ich bin bis Ende 2019 quasi in einer gesettelten Position in der Allianz gewesen, habe dann entschieden, ich mache mich selbstständig. Das ist natürlich perfektes Timing, direkt in der Krise. War dann noch in Israel bei Businesspartnern und musste dann das Land innerhalb von wenigen Tagen verlassen. Habe dann einen letzten Flieger bekommen und bin dann quasi ausgereist oder zurückgereist wieder hier nach München, wo ich jetzt gerade bin. Letztes Jahr hat aber auch, und Gali hat es auch schon erwähnt, viele Möglichkeiten und Opportunities gezeigt, die eben auch zeigen, dass in schwierigen Phasen, change is always good, Optionen entstehen, um einfach zu sagen, okay, gut, ich muss einfach Dinge anders machen. Oder es gibt einfach Dinge, die anders gemacht werden können. Oder es gibt Dinge, an die davor noch keiner gedacht hat. Und den Use Case, den ich jetzt hier vorstellen möchte, ist ein Non-Profit Use Case, um das Thema Nachbarschaftshilfe. Auch entstanden während einem Hackathon. In dem Fall war es der Deutschland-Hackathon, von der Bundesregierung getrieben, waren ca. glaube ich 30.000 dabei, die da teilgenommen haben. Ich war zuerst nur als Mentor tätig, aber habe mich dann dazu entschlossen und gesagt, hey, ich finde die Idee so klasse, ich mache da weiter mit und ich bin bis heute noch mit dabei. Und zwar geht es um das Thema, wie können die Leute, die Hilfe benötigen, beispielsweise einkaufen gehen, beispielsweise Kinder versorgen, den Hund rausführen und so weiter und so fort. Diejenigen, die Hilfe benötigen, wie können wir die am besten connecten mit denjenigen, die Hilfe geben können? Weil es war eine Zeit, ihr erinnert euch, so um April, Mai, Juni rum, wo die ersten Lockdowns begonnen haben. Jeder war zu Hause, war erstmal deprimiert, hat nicht gewusst, wie es weitergeht. Und wir in einem Hackathon, wie gesagt, ich bin auch in das Team dann eingestiegen und gesagt, wie können wir dieses Problem eigentlich beheben, dass wir auch die Leute ein bisschen mehr motivieren können. Dass wir sagen können, okay, es geht weiter. Und wie können wir das Ganze auch mit Technologie verbinden. Es ist nicht so fancy Ultra-Size Technology, aber es ist, was ja sehr, sehr, sehr effektiv ist. Die Plattform nennt sich wirhelfen.eu. Damals noch in einem anderen Branding. Wir haben dann einen Merger gemacht und sind zusammengekommen. Mittlerweile eine Gruppe von 11 Leuten, die wir sind, und eine eigene Gesellschaft bereits gegründet. Wir haben einen CEO, der Fulltime auf dem Job mittlerweile unterwegs ist, und wir stellen gerade neue Leute in dem Unternehmen auch an, um eben unseren Exposure weiter zu vergrößern, weil wir jetzt genau wieder sehen, okay, wir gehen wieder in diese ähnlichen Bereiche voran. Wie habe ich es wahrgenommen letztes Jahr? Und was waren Beweggründe? Es war sehr schwierig, weil, wie gesagt, du gehst raus von deinem Safe-Job in die Selbstständigkeit während der schlimmsten Zeit für den letzten, keine Ahnung, wahrscheinlich seit dem Zweiten Weltkrieg, um ehrlich zu sein. Ne? Und da musst du schon überlegen, wie gehst du jetzt mit um? Weil natürlich alle Pläne, die du erstmal hattest, die sind über den Haufen geworfen. Das ist Realität. Das heißt, wie schnell kannst du dich anpassen? Und da waren diese ganzen Hackathons und diese ganzen Initiativen und diese ganzen Diskussionen, die online stattgefunden haben, sehr hilfreich. Weil Leute haben sich überlegt, okay, gut, wir haben alle dasselbe Problem. Wir haben alle dasselbe Problem, dass wir jetzt nicht mehr jeden Tag ins Office gehen können und so Day-to-Day-Business haben, oder der Mitarbeiter in einer Gaststätte hat jetzt keinen Job mehr, oder und so weiter und so fort. Das heißt, hier hat einfach diese große Challenge, darüber über den Tellerrand hinauszuschauen, hat eine Möglichkeit geboten, zu überlegen, okay, gut, wie kann ich jetzt mit der Situation am besten umgehen und wie passe ich am besten jetzt mich an? Wie kann ich meine Skills am besten einbringen? Ich bin reingegangen in dieses Hackathon, weil ich als Mentor und als Jury-Member nominiert wurde. Aber ich bin reingegangen, weil ich wusste nicht, wie kann ich meine Skills am besten anwenden. Und durch diesen Prozess hindurch habe ich festgestellt, genau hier an diesen Stellen kann ich es am besten anwenden. Es ist nicht das Coding, ja, mein Background ist Wirtschaftsinformatik, aber ich bin jetzt nicht der beste Coder, sondern eben halt auch so andere Themen. Und genau auf dieser Journey sind wir dann aufgeglitten und haben sozusagen während der größten Krise hier Non-for-Profit ein Unternehmen aufgestellt mit deutschlandweiten Reach. Wir wurden mehrfach erwähnt in den Pressen, in Medien und so weiter. Selbst die DHBW, die haben Videos über uns gedreht und haben gesagt, hey, auf Instagram haben gesagt, den Jungs, den könnt ihr folgen. Also war eine sehr, sehr, sehr gute Success Story. Das war der erste Schub, den wir halt letztes Jahr hatten. Wir sind nach wie vor natürlich in vielen Programmen drin und kommen jetzt auch zu diesem Punkt, wo wir sagen, okay, gut, wir wollen das alles ein bisschen weiter treiben und werden sozusagen auch jetzt in Crowdfunding reingehen. Das heißt, wir werden jetzt hier die nächste Stufe erreichen, um wirklich dieses ganze System, wie gesagt, Non-Profit, für alle zur Verfügung zu stellen. Und das Ganze entwickelt von mehreren Leuten, die ihre Freizeit sozusagen damit einfach verbracht haben, zu sagen, ich schaue eben nicht Netflix, sondern ich schaue eben, wie kann ich jetzt hier was an die Gesellschaft zurückgeben und wie kann ich irgendwas stellen. Und wir haben das auf die Beine gestellt und mittlerweile eine Plattform, wenn ich jetzt mich richtig erinnere, mehr als 8.000 Leute, die ihre Hilfe anbieten und die Hilfe suchen. Das variiert immer so ein bisschen. Also zwischen 3.000 und 5.000 sind immer da auf der Plattform, die aktuell Hilfe suchen und die miteinander verbinden. Also wie gesagt, meine Message würde die sein, zu sagen, einfach mal die Situation nehmen, wie sie ist und das Positive suchen, das Positive sehen und daraus einfach was Erfolgreiches dann auch bilden. Genau wie wir es bei wirhelfen.eu auch gemacht haben.
Okay, danke dir, Patrick. Es gab hier tatsächlich schon eine Zwischenfrage im Chat. Die passt auch ganz gut zu dem späteren Teil, wo es nochmal um Finanzierungsmöglichkeiten ging. Aber die konkrete Frage war jetzt, was der Vorteil von einem Non-Profit-Unternehmen gegenüber einer normalen Unternehmensform ist. Also was Gewinnbeteiligung, Finanzierung und so weiter und so fort angeht.
Ja, Hintergrund von Non-Profit in dem Fall ist natürlich, dass wir einfach das Vertrauen haben möchten von unseren Usern. Wir möchten hier ganz gezielt nicht irgendwelche Gebühren erheben oder daraus jetzt Profit schlagen, sondern wir sagen, es ist ein soziales Unternehmen, das wir gegründet haben. Es ist einfach ein sozialer Zweck, der dahinter steht. Und darum sollte hier jetzt auch niemand wirklich Gewinn erwirtschaften können. Sowohl diejenigen, die Hilfe leisten, als auch die Hilfe bekommen, ist alles kostenneutral. Es werden hier keine Gebühren erhoben fürs Einkaufen gehen und so weiter. Vielleicht gibt es hier und da mal ein kleines Taschengeld, wenn jetzt jemand da einen Einkauf erledigt hat oder so. Das wissen wir natürlich nicht. Aber das ist nichts, was wir forcieren, auch nichts, was wir da hervorheben wollen. Monika kann, glaube ich, zu dem Thema Investment und so weiter dann noch einiges sagen. Aber ja, ich hoffe, das beantwortet die Frage.
Genau, ansonsten können wir da, wie gesagt, zu einem späteren Zeitpunkt nochmal drauf eingehen. Also in unserem dritten und letzten Teil in der Diskussionsrunde gleich werden wir das Thema Finanzierung und generell Unternehmensformen in Deutschland nochmal kurz aufgreifen. Aber danke dir auf jeden Fall, Patrick. Vielen Dank für den Use Case. And now, Monica, it's your turn. Go ahead.
I just have to say, it's so cool to be here. I can't believe it. I'm listening to Patrick and to Ellen. I'm so excited. So really, thank you. Thank you very much, Jonas. So yes, and by the way, I'm seeing how outdated my headphones are. Sorry for that. These are definitely very, very scary times. They are scary times and they're exciting times. And of course, we don't know how the economy is going to improve. We don't know how the job situation is going to look next month. Forget about next year. Maybe for a lot of us, the plans, the expectations that we had for the future, they're just no longer realistic. So of course, that is incredibly scary. But maybe I think that also makes it exciting because we don't really know how things are going to look like. And what I can tell you guys as students is that it is really very, very nice that neither your parents, nor your professors, nor your bosses have any better idea than you do of how things are going to develop. Just no one knows. So right now, I think this has to be very empowering for you because gone are those days where you really need to listen to people. They might know something you don't know. The reality is that right now, no one really knows. So I think this has to be incredibly empowering. Now, I think that one of the most powerful things right now is that side gigs are becoming mainstream, right? I think that that is fantastic, because whether you're studying or you're working for a large organization, it is maybe not expected, but it's certainly accepted to be doing something on the side, right? To be thinking, I have an idea. Should I try it out? And the answer today in 2021 is yes, by all means, just go ahead and try it. And I think that is incredible, because you can experiment, you can reinvent yourself constantly. You can post something on Fiverr, you can start some little business with your friends, you can join a pro bono, you can do a hackathon, and all of these things are out there, and it is okay to try, and it is okay to fail, right? And I think that is this self-confidence that 2021 has given us. It's okay to try, and it's okay to fail. And let me tell you a little bit about me. So grew up in Mexico. I learned how to type using a typewriter. I don't know if you guys have seen those things. When I started working in New York, I had to run from payphone to payphone to get my work voicemail. So I think I got my first handy when I was like 26 or 27. So definitely very different life from the one you're having. And I came to Germany, and I worked for over 18 years at Allianz, and I was super happy. And I have to tell you, I was super happy because I think I had 3 advantages when I came to Germany. The first one is that I like to find solutions for problems. So when you're working in a large company and you see that there's a problem that bugs everyone, that is an opportunity. So in large companies, problems are just opportunities to succeed. So you just go out there, you solve that problem, and that might be the beginning of your new career within this large company. So I like solving problems, I like change, and I like to learn. So I had a lot of fun at Allianz. As Patrick mentioned, I had many different jobs. And of course, one of the best things of Allianz is that I met Patrick. So that I'm going to be forever grateful to that company. But basically, I was very happy at Allianz. However, a couple of years ago, I also decided to leave Allianz. And I wonder how my decision would have been like if it had been 2020, right? Because back then, this side gig thing was not really a thing. Right back then, I thought I want to do something different. I want to learn new things. And for me, it was very clear it's here or it's there. So I left Allianz and I started coaching and mentoring startup companies. And that's been great. And I've seen a lot of companies so far, and we can talk about that if you want. And for me, the companies that are the most interesting that I've found so far are those companies where the founders love their idea so much that they just want to make it on their own. They don't want investors. They want to try to figure it out, and they want to keep their company. They want to keep control. And of course, that's not a rule, but I found that those are the companies that I enjoy the most, and I found one of those. I'm incredibly lucky. Since, as Patrick mentioned, my 3rd career, I joined a startup. And that's my use case here, a startup that develops video games to help kids with chronic diseases. So basically, the idea here is these kids who need ongoing therapy, we can help them get that therapy through gaming. So what can be more cool? And just on the question that someone just asked Jonas, and we can talk about that a little bit more later, we have a company where we are trying to maximize social impact while at the same time generate an attractive financial model. So we'll see how that goes, but that is the idea behind. Now, Refit started, it's called Refit Systems, by the way. Refit started as a university project. And it grew from there. And so far, Refit has received more than 1.4 million euros in grants, all equity free. So basically, we've had everything from university funding to, you name it, accelerators, incubators, the German federal government, the Bavarian government, European funds. We've had, again, in total, 1.4 million euros so far. Right now, we are about to start considering whether we should raise money from impact investors, foundations, and of course, Should we go the venture capital way? Yes or no? I don't know. What is for sure a fact is that Germany does not have a Silicon Valley, right? I mean, the money is not falling down from trees, and we don't have this ecosystem, which, you know, just from the movies or from what I see must be amazing that they have over there. We don't have that. But the reality is that the German government knows that. Europe knows it. And there are a lot of initiatives out there to support people who have great ideas and who want to launch new companies. Again, look at Refit, over 1.4 million euros equity free. So, you know, the opportunities are there. And of course, by the way, I have to say, on the health tech side, COVID has been an amazing boost. Because of course, now there's significantly more funding and more interest. People are realizing that the digitalization of healthcare, it's a great opportunity. So of course, that was, we just got lucky with that. But in general, if you are a company with a great idea, there are funds, you know, from within Germany, within Europe that you can access. So guys, the opportunities are out there and you just have to go and get them.
Okay, thank you very much, Monica. You started far away, then turned back to your use case experience. Thank you very much for that insight. That sounds really good. Patrick was already able to answer the question in the chat, so I think we can move further and start with the first topic. A few of you know that we had a small survey where you could give answers in which topic you're most interested in. And the first topic we want to start is the new global world and how to make it and how to make the best out of it. And I think Galia is the perfect person to start with that topic, give a short introduction. And afterwards, all three of them will have a small discussion about the topic in general. And I will step in from time to time and ask one of the questions we derived from the survey.
Okay, so the topic is, can you repeat that one for me, Jonas?
Yes, the new global world and how to make the best out of it.
Yeah, so if you follow me on Twitter and all the different social networks, and I actually did quite a big TEDx in Vancouver about social network, you might find an article that I wrote 5 or 7 years ago about Marissa Mayer. I believe that's her name. She was the former head of Yahoo. And she decided quite a few years ago that she was going to stop people from working remotely. And of course, I would never be accepted to Yahoo. Neither will I be accepted to Google, to Facebook. I'm too much of a problematic employee, and I do not want to be an employee if I can help it. But I was furious that she stopped people from working remotely, and she forced her employees. And in fact, she really created this statement that a lot of employers were like that before March 2020. And so this global change to me has always been a reality where as a person that employs different people from around the world, some of my team members, I've never met them in person. Some people, of course, I met in person, but almost never had we have a physical place where we got together. It was always online. Every job that I had before I became an entrepreneur, and actually I was an entrepreneur, I was employed. Entrepreneur, was employed. And then finally I was like, okay, I'm not employed anymore. Nobody would employ me, so I kind of have to be an entrepreneur. But always at that time, I remember even when I moved to Canada, like 13 years ago, I was a little tiny Galia. And I remember saying to my boss, I always negotiated. I love negotiating. And I negotiated with the boss. This is like 13 years ago. I said, hey, man, I want to visit my mom in Israel. So you're going to have to let me work remotely. Because what I do is I use this machine called computer. And there's a thing called the internet from everywhere in the world, even on the plane. I'm so excited when there's Wi-Fi on the plane. Really, I'm like a little girl. And I can just go somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And as long as I'm connected to the internet, you don't have to watch behind my back. I'm actually a pretty high level professional that you don't have to watch and see what I'm doing. And so the reality that now all of us are essentially stuck at home. Some of us are not even able to go to the office, even if we wanted to. And even if we are, we have to wear the mask and and public transportation. And it's not always safe to go outside right now, this change, this global change that really forced everybody to work remotely is so well blessed. I love this. And I'm really happy that finally people understand that, and also companies understand that they have to be more efficient in the way they operate. They don't have to look at their employees over their shoulder. And it really is about motivating people and giving people enough satisfaction of their job to be able to do the best job that they can, but still place the tools that are there to be able to allow the person to work remotely and be effective in what they do. Did I answer the question, or did I drift?
Yeah, I think that was a good introduction to the topic. But what about Monica? What about Patrick? What do you think on the topic?
It's interesting, right? Because I just remember, and just for the audience to know, we agreed that we do not know our interest statements. So because Galia and I, we met virtually last year, right? Through Zoom and all of those other,
you came to Berlin.
Yeah, that's my point, right? Because at some point we decided we actually have to meet physically to also, meet, because we're doing business together. So although I think and believe that communicating online is a very good, is a very efficient way of doing stuff, it's not the most effective way, because at some point you need to meet your counterpart to have the full trust element if you conduct business with this with this person. So it's like a balance. But if you look at a company, and Monica probably can relate to it, right? Like let's pick a large insurer that's headquartered in Munich, that we might have worked for. For sure, you can have 99% of people working remotely. It totally works, but you have to have 1% where you come together and you have to physically meet, which really creates, I think, from my perspective, a huge difference, because you get to know this person from a different perspective, from a different angle. I mean, I remember the first time we met in Berlin, right? It was a different experience as our many discussions we have had before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Monica, you're on mute. Yeah.
Sorry for that. I should know better, right? But I am very sorry. I just need to say something. Patrick, I am terribly sorry. I hope you don't hate me. So when Patrick and I were working together, Patrick is, the problem I had with Patrick is that he just doesn't stop working. So that was, to be honest, that was a problem, right? He was just a machine. He was just saying yes and solving problems and getting things done. But look at him now. I mean, look at his pretty little face over there. He would come to the office totally red. And I'm like, Patrick, what happened? And he's like, it's just, working on my balcony. And I'm like, can you please put some solos? I mean, back then at Allianz, Allianz has always been quite flexible, but we had an understanding, because of course we had a relationship based on trust. I couldn't care less where Patrick was working. But of course, theoretically, he was in the office, right? And here's this guy coming with a tomato head because he just spends all the time working on his balcony. So I agree. I think it's amazing, the flexibility that we're getting, but without a doubt, meeting is very important. And I can imagine this is going to become a very stressful part of the new reality. How to decide when to meet or when not to meet. Right? How to decide where, we can just do it by Zoom. And the reality with just doing it by Zoom is you're missing the drinks after the meeting, right? You're missing the get to know the person, but you don't really need it. We all know that you don't need it. So I think that's going to be, I'm looking forward to seeing how that evolves.
Monica, I'm wondering if you guys ever read the 4-Hour Workweek. I'm wondering if there is a way for these, even like the big companies, to lead this way, to allow a person to work extremely effectively. So let's say, for example, you have a family, you have a baby you have to attend to, you have a husband you have something you want to attend to. You could actually concentrate and not go through the traffic, and the commute and the whatever. You could allocate, and if it's comfortable for you to work in the morning, you could allocate 4 hours, 4 intense hours where you actually do work. Because according to research, even though it's an 8 or 9 hour, or in Patrick's case, 17 hour day, it doesn't mean that during the 17 hours, you're actually being very efficient and very effective in your time. So I'm wondering if we can actually learn from it, of how we can do work extremely effectively. That's my first question. My second question is, as a person that I really strive to be free, right? They say that I'm like a free spirit. I strive to be free. I'm so free that sometimes when I'm so free and I have so many options, sometimes I get confused as well. And I get inefficient as well. I remember one time I took an investment call. I was in Tel Aviv and I dared to go to the beach and I did not turn the camera, but I took the call and I'm trying to close him. And he can hear the waves. And he didn't hear the waves. And it went okay. Actually, I didn't get the investment. And I came back to my apartment, and I usually lock myself in my apartment. I mean, I don't leave. I mean, the weather could be amazing. I will be working nonstop. But this time I left, and I felt really bad. But why? Why do I need to feel bad? I place myself in a nice sunny place, and I take my coffee breaks and food. And actually, I work more when I work remotely. And yes, I went to the beach, and I wasn't in a bathing suit though. I mean, I was, fully clothed, but I took that call with the investor, and I think it's okay. I think it's okay as long as you have a certain routine that you're sticking to, and you're working in some sort of a framework, and maybe those are the companies that are able to make our life easier, but still effective. What do you think?
But I think it's a problem of old and new generations, right? Because if you're in a larger company, or you have let's say you have people from different age, let me phrase it that way to be politically almost correct. There's certain jealousy between those saying, hey, you can work from your balcony, as I did, and Monica outlined it quite perfectly fine, and I still continue doing it. And those who are used to go to the office every single day. I think it's just different mindsets that we have here that are conflicting. And maybe that's my perception, is that those who haven't had the chance in the past to experience how work can look like, to work from, you're working now from WeWork in Berlin, right? But you could be also in Vancouver or somewhere else. So, people that they haven't had this experience in the past, and I wouldn't say it's all jealousy, but they might think, oh, this actually, it cannot work because, we have been doing this like forever and so on and so forth. I think the big change that we have in this, as Jonas called, like the new global world, is that we have a different way of communicating, of connecting. And even back then at Allianz, when we started putting together WhatsApp groups, it was like, revolutionary. To have a different way of communicating other than emails. It takes time to convince people, but eventually everyone will agree that it works. I think it's a transition phase that one needs to go through.
If I can say something.
Yeah, that's a good point, but I have to step in for a second. I think most of the audience is really used to the new situation. A lot of students are only familiar with home office. A lot of them never studied at university before, or never worked really from the office. So I think my generation and the generations after are very familiar with it. But do we really think that the requirements for the employees change? Because we need a different skill set. You need more discipline. You have to structure your day on your own because no one is telling you what to do and when to do. That would be one question. And another question from the chat, very close to my question. It's directed to Patrick. Do you think that meeting physical to do business is important, and that it is still necessary after all that COVID-19 prep that's going on over here?
Let me take the question that was related to me, and then I'll give it up to Monica and Galia to answer the other one. I think it is, you can do business without meeting them, but if you want to go into a long-term relationship and long-term business, meaning anything that's beyond, I don't know, what do you think, Galia, maybe more than 1 year or 2 years, you should try to figure out how to meet physically. Even though in the crisis.
I slightly disagree with you based on my experience.
And yeah, what was your?
I think the physical world, you know, a lot of us, I mean, everything is an illusion, right? If you look at the philosophers, everything, we're now in one big illusion that, you know, we're communicating and this and that. But there's an illusion that because of the physicality and because we're in the physical world, and I'm right now in Central European time zone, and my family and my friends and some of my colleagues are in Pacific time zone, it means that, you know, we can't communicate. It's too many hours difference. We have to meet in person. Getting a client, you have to go and do the client's deals, got to take them to a drink, got to take them to a restaurant. I think it's very valuable, but I actually love the fact that today, it's like what Monica said, nobody is like better than the other one. Like Elon Musk, he's stuck at home as well, or maybe like in his spaceship, right? And if technically, if you wanted to reach out to Elon Musk or to Barack Obama, they are at the palm of your hand, because it's just a one click away, because he's seeing in front of this screen, same as you're seeing in front of the screen. Now, in the regular world, where we had to, you know how many conferences I went to? Fuck, I went to so many conferences, and I stood so many hours, you know, on my feet to try and get to different people. And because we're limited by the physicality, it simply is not possible. And I think now, there's so much possibility. You can get a hold of anyone. You can drop them a message. You can do a campaign.
Yeah, but it's a different topic, right? I mean, I'm not saying about reaching out to people. It's easier nowadays to reach out to Elon Musk for sure.
You asked about clients, right? So I'm saying that today, in today's world, you can reach more clients, and actually you can nourish the relationship with the client if you are consistent with your Zoom or Hangout or whatever online calls. And yes, I agree with you, Patrick. Eventually, we're going to have to meet our clients from the Canadian government and all these different organizations. But we've established enough rapport that we don't have to.
No, my point is, like, if you want to do a long-term relationship, then you have to meet with them. To reach out to Elon Musk and co., it's easier than before. So either he's stuck in his, SpaceX projects, or wherever in Germany where he wants to build his Tesla cars. But it's easier. I totally agree. But I was speaking about long-term relationships that you want to have with your customers.
And now I'm going to jump in, because otherwise you guys are cutting me out all the time.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's absolutely okay. In my experience, the greatest ideas are not in the agenda. And while Zoom is, or Teams or whatever we do to conference is a fantastic way of reaching people and of doing business, it's this off the agenda conversations, right? It is this just, with tequila or not, but it is this conversations off the agenda where you actually understand where's the pain, right? Someone may not really, when you have the conversation on a script, that you might get an idea of where the person wants to go, but it is those informal chats where you really understand what's behind. So I actually believe that we don't need to meet, but if we really want to do extraordinary things, those things are not going to happen on scripted meetings. That's what I would think.
That was a very good point, and I just try to put in the questions we received from the chat. I think most of the questions from the survey were already covered. But what about finding people you can collaborate with? It's very hard to do business if you don't really meet in person, and you need a certain level of trust, that's for sure. I mean, there will be a change in the dynamics, I think, but overall, you already described, there will always be a certain need for human interaction in live action. But one of the questions in the chat was, when you have a startup idea and you need a partner, maybe specialized in app development or something else, how do you find the right partner right now? How do you find someone you can trust? Most of the time, if you have a startup, you don't want an employer right away. You want someone you can rely on. And what's your opinion about it?
Yeah, if I may take this one. So I'm still standing on the opinion that everything can be done online. When you find a partner, whether it's a business partner, whether it's a personal relationship, whatever that is, I have to say that word of mouth and recommendation is almost always the best path for success. Now, if you don't have a big enough network, then you have to use the different circles of people and influencers that you have in your network to try and get an introduction, whether you want to employ or whether you want to partner with someone, whether you want to be employed or be partnered with someone else with a recommendation. Because even though I love algorithms and I love automation, you cannot automate human connection. And I think that I can tell you for myself, the way I do marketing and sales is I actually place myself as the brand, as the product. I do a lot of presentations, a lot of talks, and then, you know, people come to me and I talk to them, and sometimes there are relationships that come out of it, whether it's a student, whether it's a partner, whether it's a developer, whether it's a client, many things. But that's because in my personality, I open myself up and I invite people to talk to me, right? Because it's very efficient. Like, you stand in front of thousands of people, eventually something would grab. Now, if you're an individual that is getting to know someone, let's say you want someone to be your partner for like technical matters, then if you can get a recommendation to them, that's the best way, because another person is held accountable for the person that they're connecting you with. If you cannot, you could join, we talked about hackathons, right? We talked about different online events where you partner with people, but you always have to somehow sharpen your intuition. I have sharpened my intuition in such a way that as soon as I met Patrick, I knew that he was the guy. And I can't tell you exactly why, right? I don't know why. I mean, he comes from Germany and I'm from Canada and Israel, but we connected. I think because you said, like, you were like, oh, I love Tel Aviv, you know, you're Israeli, da, 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 da. And maybe it was that, I don't know. But I'm so online engraved. I'm so into the online world. I can be the first bionic woman. I have the intuition online. Who am I talking to? What is their agenda? You know how many times people contact me on LinkedIn? Just now, somebody has said, oh, you're so amazing, la, 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 la. And I would like to get to know about your issues in the blah, 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 in COVID. And then I look at him and I said, thank you. I'm not looking for a business mentor at the moment.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your time, but I'm not interested.
If I can, so I am, I'm also an extroverted, but I am the worst networker ever. Okay, you can't follow me anywhere because I'm nowhere to be followed. So it's embarrassing, but you know, what I would, I think an alternative approach, because by the way, what Galia does requires a real talent. And trust me, I thought I could be that person and I tried and failed miserably. One of my many failures. But one thing I think that it's interesting that Patrick and I have in common, when I started doing the mentoring and the coaching for startups, that was pro bono, right? I was not expecting to get paid. This was just something that I thought, I'm going to do it on this side just to help people, because why not? And it's the same way as Patrick is now doing with his nonprofit. I think that that can be a very good opportunity for you to find, for people to find other people and figure out whether you can work together. You know, find a topic that you care about, where you don't want to make money, when you're not in it for the business, but you're in it because you want to make a difference. And that, in my experience, is a great way to expand your network. And maybe, you know, if you can solve a social problem working with someone, maybe that means that that is the right person to then go into business with. But, you know, I think those opportunities for social engagement, they are out there. And a lot of people are doing them because, as you guys said, you know, Elon is all alone in his spaceship and maybe he's socially engaged as well. So I think that's worth a try. That would be my piece of advice.
That's a really good point. But are there any other resources you could really try, like crowdfunding platforms or special social media platforms, especially for doing business together? I mean, of course, you can always meet people on LinkedIn, but is there a favorite resource of yours?
I would say it's LinkedIn, to be honest, or any other professional.
I don't know if it's LinkedIn, Patrick. I have to say their algorithms are now really disappointing because they're letting a lot of garbage.
Just to put it in size, it can be any platform, to be honest, but you know, it gives credibility. You know, you want to do business with someone, and you know, you want to figure out, like, you know, who's this person connected to, and you know, platforms such as LinkedIn, or in Germany like Xing, or anything else, right? They give you a credibility because you see who is connected with this person as well. You can see this person's interactions, posts, and everything else. You can basically start profiling this person, how they behave, how they interact with others, whom they're connected to, and so on and so forth. And you can reach out to someone who is in the middle, who might know him or not. So I don't think it's a matter of the platform itself, because just use Google and figure out any platform that the person is on. But eventually, the credibility part is something that can create the trust that you need, because you shouldn't blindly trust, anyone. Whoever I do business with, Monica, my background, we were compliance, right? So of course, we look up people. But bottom line is, we want to come to a conclusion whether or not it is trustworthy doing business with, said person.
But I want to take this to a higher level. So the TEDx that I did was about loneliness and social media. And one of the conclusions that I drew, this is based on research and based on my own experience in a personal matter, is that the trouble with the existing social networks of today is that the initial agenda was to connect people. And today, people are in fact connected, but they feel more stressed and more that they have to perform than the benefits of the social media. There's a really interesting conference coming up with people from the Social Dilemma that I'm going to be speaking in probably in the next 2 months, but he talks about a huge problem, right? So I think if you're discouraged when you go on social networks, such as LinkedIn, such as Facebook, such as meetups, such as events, sometimes the conclusion that needs to be drawn is this particular action that I'm taking online, is it too big? Because the conclusion is that if you join mutual interest groups, for example, the groups of this university that you all graduated or are working on your graduation in this university, you have a topic that you can talk about, right? Some of us like to talk about technology, some of us like blockchain. Here's a conversation for you to pick up your LinkedIn chat and send me a message and tell me what you think about digital coins or stable coins, like Jonas and I were discussing yesterday, right? So it's almost like I created once upon a time a network called Get Friended, which is how are you able to get connected with someone by giving them an opportunity and an excuse to talk to you. So you need an excuse to talk to someone. And I believe that joining groups such as events, such as Meetup, such as LinkedIn groups or Facebook groups might give you a better chance to succeed in those relationships.
Yeah, and I think also to add, COVID has changed a lot of, and it goes back to the digital global world, right? To this discussion, because the way that people are interacting in events such as this one here has completely changed. When in the past you had to travel whatever to London to go to a conference, now you can do everything online. And in particular, last year, I have seen so many conferences that were just for free. That is about a specific topic. You have very, very great lineup of speakers. And what they always try to promote is you have a lot of opportunities for networking. That in particular, and I love this kind of Tinder of business, where you have speed dating, 5 minutes, you talk to someone and then you talk to the next person and you connect or you don't connect. I've made many connections and many business discussions out of this, to be honest. It's a different way of how conferences are taking place, but look at them. Many of them are for free. You can easily join. You can directly approach anyone you want. It's easier than in the past. If you want to talk to the speaker, and the speaker would just leave the room after 2 hours because he has to go to the next event, because whatever, it's CXO level or anything like that, but you can easily just directly approach them through the platform. So it's easier than before. It's just taking the first step and just doing it and exploring, to be honest. I think it's easier.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. For the sake of time, I think we have to transition to the next topic. Well, we basically already did it, but Monica prepared a short introduction for it. So Monica, I hope you can tell us something about the topic, difficult situations, a one-time business chance of a lifetime. I mean, you touched that a few times today already, but
that's what I'm thinking. And this preparing, that's a matter of definition, the preparing. I do believe that right now we do have the business chance of a lifetime. I actually do believe it. And I believe that because this is the perfect time to try and fail and learn and reinvent yourself. And I think it's never been as clear as it is now that everyone makes mistakes. I mean, look at Germany and COVID, right? I mean, we were doing great and then we started doing not so great. So clearly everyone gets it sometimes wrong. So I don't know. Let me tell you quickly about my last year since I decided to become independent. So, I mean, when I was at Allianz, I was super happy. I had a fantastic career, but I made a lot of mistakes, little mistakes, big mistakes, a lot of mistakes. Since I left Allianz, though, I've definitely compounded the mistakes. I mean, I started where you guys left it right now after this Q&A. I thought, I know more about my topic than almost anyone. I'm going to be on LinkedIn. I'm going to do social media. I'm going to write. I'm going to blog. I'm going to post. I'm going to be the influencer for my narrow topic because few people know as much as I do. I am terrible at networking. I don't reach out to people. I don't write. So, first big failure. Then I thought, okay, so I'm going to help companies find tech solutions because tech is a cool thing right now. I'm going to find companies find tech solutions for the regulatory problems. And it turns out I didn't really understand the tech part and Patrick was not with me anymore. So big mistake, bad idea, humiliating, terrible. Then I thought I'm going to help startups connect with big companies. And it turns out that I was incredibly naive thinking that big companies actually wanted to cooperate with startups. So there you go. So failure after failure after failure. But again, the good thing about these times is we're all making failures and it's okay. And you get up and you learn. And it was my side gig, right? This nonprofit thing where I started, where I find opportunities. I would have never thought that my pro bono, my nonprofit thing was going to be what was going to help me find my third career. And now I have a new field. I'm reinventing myself as an expert on health tech and regulation. And I don't know, I think the opportunity is that there is no straightforward path. That is the opportunity. You try, you fail, you reinvent yourself. And there is no specific way to go. And I think that is the opportunity. Does that make sense?
Definitely. You already covered the first question on that topic. That was pretty good.
Oh.
Yeah, it was about failure. Maybe the other two can add something. Just imagine you have an idea, you have your own startup and you fail. What do you do afterwards? What would be the next step in your career? Go back to corporate business or just adjust your idea? What would you do?
If I may take that one. So I think I totally agree with you, Monica. It's just one failure and they say fail forward, right? That's the best way. It's the best way to describe it. You really have to push yourself to fail and understand from your mistakes, and then you fail again until you finally have like Edison, finally he was able to succeed, right? After so many attempts. I think for me, I can share with you that I have been very afraid to start my own thing. I studied software engineering, which allowed me to move to different parts of the world and proceed with my career. But a person like myself, when you do product management and you're based on your engineering and architecture skills, a lot of the times, not for everyone, but for some people, you will hit the glass ceiling. For me, it was very fast. So I progressed super fast with my career, but I hit the glass ceiling really fast, and it wasn't even a failure. I was kicked out, or I kicked myself out. I really did have no choice but to become an entrepreneur. And being an entrepreneur is a very, very difficult thing to do. And we were talking about it yesterday, that the ones who succeed are the ones that are resilient and the ones that are consistent. So when you fall on your face, you have to, clean yourself from the dust and tell yourself that you can get up and try again. And you go back to the ring and you try again. And you go back to the ring and you try again. So as an example, I was able to raise money for my second company. Actually, the investors came to me because, believe it or not, it was my former boss that has let me go. Well, his under boss let me go because I was too much for too little. And he met me in Yaletown in Vancouver one day, and he said, I remember you being extremely smart. Tell me what you're doing. I told him about my idea. We were going to automate the creations of apps. We were going to allow anybody to create their own, actually Facebook group type apps for their brand. And they invested, and the money ran out, and we were looking for more investment. And you know, a lot of the times I got the, there, little girl, you obviously don't know how to raise money, and you're this and you're that, and all these different criticism would shrink you so much that you think I'm never going to be able to raise money. And then one day I went to a lecture about Ethereum, and I realized that the fact that the philosophy of my company to give the power back to the people, for them to use different self-serve tools and to take control over their business, actually aligns with the philosophy of blockchain, which is how do you create trust and how do you create peer-to-peer networks? And I decided with my team to pivot. So I pivoted again, and I tried to raise money, and I failed. And then I met a really amazing advisor, and she's still our advisor. And she said, this is back in when the bubble was about to burst 2.5 years ago. She said, you should do an ICO. So anybody here who knows what an ICO, initial coin offering, kind of similar to an IPO, but in the blockchain world. And back then people were raising like millions of dollars. They said, you are the brand, you will be on stage, and you'll be able to get people to invest in you, private investors. And then we're going to go and we're going to launch the coin, and all your followers around the world will be able to buy your coin, and you will raise, I think we were thinking about 20 million. Little, actually a lot did I know that when I was in Hong Kong paying all these fees to go to all these conferences with all these investors, I fell flat on my face. And even though we launched it based on our private investment, we launched the product that we wanted to launch, I can see the investment money is not coming in. We were able to raise a little bit, and I was talking to investors, and you know, you really have to put on a face where you are it. And you cannot show that you are failing, but in fact, you know that you're going to fail. And during these different times, I was always invited to be on stage. And I was just talking about blockchain from the bottom of my heart, of how you're able to create a free society, how you're able to create tools that are allowing for transparency and for better business. And as I was on stage and I could not raise the money, different clients were coming to me and they said, wait, you're doing a communication tool that's based on Ethereum? And you're using smart contracts? How can I do this for my business, for supply chain, for identity, for business in HR? And all of a sudden the light bulb. So as an entrepreneur, you will have a light bulb, and the more you shine it, the better it will light. The light bulb came up. And then I decided, here's the 10,000 pivot. We have to now provide blockchain type services to people that are wanting to go into the blockchain space, but they don't know how. And that's how we came about. And that's why I actually pivoted with Plazas. And as you know, the story about the use case, created yet another company, which is Go Health.
So just to summarize it a little bit, failure is just natural. I mean, you failed not one time, maybe 2 times, maybe 3 times, but you still ended up better than before, and you still made your way. So I think a very important lesson to learn from that speech is that there will always be failure, but there will always be the next opportunity, and you just have to pursue it and just don't give up. We have a bunch of questions now in the backlog. Here's one question I still want to throw in.
There's one thing to add maybe here, because failures, and of course they will always happen, right? I think it's very important to understand that you should, and do this principle of failing fast. So if you see that it's failing, then just recognize it and say, look, this is going to fail, and accept it. Because all the power, all the effort you're spending into keeping this alive is not going to help you in your journey, because it's already, you're already in a position where you cannot succeed, or it's very unlikely to be successful. So failing very fast really, really helps. I would have one question to Monica, but I leave you first with the other questions. But my question to Monica would be, why? Because you mentioned that failing and the failing is important, and now it's a perfect time. But why does this current situation really make it or make it easier to fail?
And that's a good point, because it's very close to the next question. We didn't misquote Albert Einstein today, so we have to do that now. He supposedly said, "In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity." And we can all agree that we are right now in the middle of a pandemic, a very difficult situation for everyone. There are, of course, a lot of winners. We saw a lot of people get even richer right now. There are a lot of losers. But if you imagine that you would have graduated in 2018 from university and immediately afterwards started your own business idea, your own startup, what's the difference right now? What would be the situation if I finished this year still in the pandemic? I wanted to create my own startup. Do you think it's a good chance to be even more successful, or is it just harder? Is it just a different approach because you need different products? What's your idea about this question?
I actually think that it's easier today. I mean, I don't know, I might be, but I think it is easier today. And the first one is this failure thing, right? It is, we are seeing, the smartest people getting it wrong all the time when they're faced with a situation that they were not expecting. So there's tons of failures happening at every level, corporate level, government level. So this idea that, oh, you need experience to get it right, that's gone. I mean, it is clear that we all make mistakes. But I actually believe that in specific sectors, you're much better off today. Like a lot of things, for example, as I mentioned, related to healthcare, maybe if you have ideas related to the environment, if you have social impact ideas, I believe that now, 2021, there are more opportunities for funding than they were a couple of years ago. So I think that is definitely, people need to look at that, because there are, as I mentioned, there is a recognition, first of all, of the importance of digitalizing healthcare. And there's the recognition that we cannot rely in the US as much as we have done in the past, and that Europe needs to really get stronger from a technology perspective. That is leading to more and more funding opportunities for companies. Also, something else that we already discussed, but this morning with my company, we had a conference call with a London investment banker. And we already made this point, but it is true. It happened to me this morning. I think 2 years ago, there's no way that a London investment banker would take the call of someone like me, right? And right now, people are looking for opportunities. People are looking for ideas. So I had a Zoom call with this investment banker, and maybe it's going to go nowhere. But bottom line is, those opportunities, just reach out and people will reply. That is true. And, from the perspective of a startup, I'm getting tons done from my apartment. No travel budget, way less expenses than what the company had, a couple of years ago. So, and by the way, we also right now at Refit, we have colleagues that were working from Finland. We have people working in Hamburg. One of my colleagues is going to move to Erfurt because the rents are cheaper. So, there's just much more flexibility. So it is difficult to compare it specifically for 2018. But I do believe that there are amazing opportunities today that were not there a couple of years ago.
If I may add to that, I think what you're saying, Monica, is very true, absolutely. But I want to give you my perspective. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for quite a few years now, and I did a lecture in one of the university, one of the most known ones in Israel, and I talked about the 3 paths of an entrepreneur. And I have to say that I'm very bold person. I take huge risks, calculated risks, uncalculated risks, and I will always be the one who will motivate you and who will tell you, be an entrepreneur, be your own boss. But I think that if I was now graduated from university, and mind you, I was nowhere near a brilliant student. I mean, I had so many difficulties. I actually think they did me a favor by allowing me to graduate from university. I would still go through the tumbles and the different difficulties. And I really had to discover that glass ceiling. And I really had to be able to gain the experience in working in a constructive and in a really well-defined area, also known as the corporate world, to be able to discover my superpower as an entrepreneur. I really didn't know. First of all, I didn't know that I could be an entrepreneur. And because, you know, I don't come from success, I really built my success with blood, sweat, and tears. And I had to get those jobs, and I had to learn how to negotiate to get the best jobs. And I think with relations to what Monica is saying and the pandemic and that everything is online, you know, if a few years ago you were struggling to find a job online and they were giving you these conditions, yeah, maybe if you come to the office and you have to be in Germany, today really the world is your oyster. And you can decide if you want to join a startup. So let's say you want to be an entrepreneur, you should join a startup. You should see like all the different difficulties that the entrepreneurs are making before you take that leap, because taking that leap is a financial leap that you have to take, is a liability leap, is a reputation leap. Like you really have to plan what is it that you want to do. And I'm sure you have amazing ideas. You have to try it out. You have to get investment from somewhere, you have to get partners from somewhere. And the best way to network and the best way to know after you've graduated, you work so hard on your degree, is to get a job. I mean, that's what I would do. I would get a job in the area. I would negotiate and hustle the best possible deal for myself, the best possible conditions, the best possible salary. And I would work in those environments, maybe in a startup environment. And then I will slowly start to plan, how am I going to do the side gig, and I'm going to be an entrepreneur and be willing to fail, of course.
Yeah, I would totally agree with what you just said, Karriere. I mean, one point to add is about the financing right now, because otherwise that's a very important topic, right? Is it easier or more difficult before? I mean, the question Jonas that you raised was, you know, imagine it's 2018 or, you know, it's 2021. First of all, it is easier to get a job in the startup world, certainly, because everything is digital. People that just accustomed that it's a new normal, right? Secondly, if you are at the point where you say that you want to run your own business, you want to run your own shop, you want to realize your own idea, it has never been easier before to connect with investors, startup angels, you know, family offices, VCs, and so on. It has never been easier than before. That being said, of course, it needs to be thought through, because they're receiving, you know, such a lot of, you know, requests at this point in time that they hardly can manage through it. On the other hand, they're sitting on a very big, you know, pile of money, because they were hesitant in general last year in investments. So if you look at 2021, 2022, so right now, and you know, next year, in terms of investments for startups, there's a lot of money to actually get. So it is really worth looking into it, and it is very easy to reach them, because everything is happening 100% online. And I'm going with one startup through those processes at this moment. It is really very easy to connect with them. That they still, you know, ask us to fill out Excel spreadsheets, right? You still have to do this like an old school thing. But on the other hand, it is very easy to connect with them. It is very easy to get feedback from them. It's not like you have to travel somewhere, you have to present in front, like Höhle der Löwen in Germany, for those who know that TV series, right? It is a completely different world. It became way more efficient. It was not effective last year, but numbers that I've seen so far is that investments are increasing now, in particular this year, and probably also next year. I've seen a lot of stuff, in particular in the UK, where people approached us and said, you know, basically, you know, we have money. do you want to have it?
I think I have to step in one more time before we transition to the last topic, and I think it would be a good transition to your last topic, Patrick. I have one last question for Monica. One of the persons in the audience had the impression that you're not a big fan of big companies. So what do you think about CVC, venture builder, studios, and so on?
Hold on a second. CVC, venture builder, studios, and so what do you mean?
Yeah,
I just reading out the question. I'm not sure.
I have to tell you, I am a mega fan of big companies, and I really like corporate Germany. I mean, I had so many fantastic opportunities to learn at Allianz. I mean, just to give you an idea, I worked at the finance department. I worked in strategy. I worked in sustainability. I worked in compliance. I traveled the world. I met Patrick. I actually loved it. And I spent 18 years there. So and Patrick, I did not let him leave more than once, and I convinced him to stay because it is really, you know, the opportunities that you have in corporate Germany are amazing. I just believe there are opportunities elsewhere as well. And I believe that today you guys have the best of both worlds. You can go and have your Allianz job and you can have your side gig. And that is what I want to let people with it. It's not exclusive. This issue of, do I want a job or do I want to be an entrepreneur? That's not a choice that you need to make anymore. You can go to Accenture, to Allianz, to BMW, and be an entrepreneur at the side. And I believe, again, even though it might not be normal, it's going to be definitely understood and maybe even encouraged by large corporates. So I'm not sure what those things.
Yeah, it was specified to corporate venture builders, for example, BP Launchpad.
So I have to tell you something. I thought one of my failed ideas that I've been later, as I'm telling you, I'm becoming incredibly wise because of all the mistakes I'm doing. Another one of the ideas I had was to help venture capital firms identify interesting business opportunities. I have to say that was for me a little bit draining, and I don't want to take away from what we have said today, but I think that there's a lot of air. There's a lot of people who are window dressing and are trying to sell ideas as companies. And I found that a little bit exhausting. And that's why I started looking for companies, and don't take this the wrong way, but I started looking for companies that affirmatively did not want venture capital. You know, the idea of, I have this great idea and then I get some investors and I become rich. It became draining for me. I wanted to find people who loved their company, and those people generally don't want VCs in, you know. So, but again, I tried that, and it was not really for me. But again, it's experiences learned.
Yeah, I can add from my point of view. I did try different ones. There's I forgot the name of the group in Berlin as well. Patrick and I went there together. I am not a fan, I have to say. And I have done other fireside chats where I would kind of break the norm and the ideas where don't kid yourself. It really is, even when you get investment, it's not a pleasant ride. And I think that if you want money from someone else, you have to be able to put your money where your mouth is. You have to be able to invest the time into fleshing out your ideas. And I would suggest, you know, from a humble position, for you to really drill down into your idea. And you don't necessarily have to invest the money, but you have to invest the time. At least create the canvas to know what is your business idea. How are you going to make money? How are you going to monetize that idea? How are you going to bring the users if it's an online idea? And then, you know, you kind of have to have a product manager or a designer or UI UX come up with some sort of a prototype, even using InVision, even using sketches, even using wireframes, and give it to your potential clients or your potential users. And I would go into further, and that's what investors will tell you. If you think it's that good, and if you have users and you have potential clients, get them to sign an LOI, a letter of intent. I would say even invest in giving this to an outside development firm. A little tiny prototype can go a long way. And if you come with that proof to all these different, you know, blah, blah, tech stars, investment opportunities, you will be there a lot stronger than the other ones. And if you really believe in your idea, I think that you can take the time to flesh it out and really bring it to reality and invest the time from yourself firstly.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have to transition now to the last topic. Patrick,
advice, Jonas, if I may.
Very brief, please.
I'm very brief. Right, is to prolong the time between you're starting your company, you're starting your product, you're putting everything together, and you're asking for money. because the longer you wait and the longer you're able to wait, the higher is the valuation. So the longer you can actually survive on your own, the better return you will get after the first investment and even a couple of years. That's super important. So don't go ask for money after 3 months when you have an MVP. If you're able to survive for 6 months, survive for 6 months, secure an LOI, another client, and then ask for money.
Okay, I think that was a good conclusion. And now to the last topic. Patrick, you prepared a short overview about the point attractiveness of Germany as a startup hub. I think that's very interesting because Galia and Monica basically decided to live in Germany. And I think Patrick is very familiar with the country. So give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, the point about attractiveness of Germany is very interesting. I mean, we have Monica and Galia here in the call, so it should that should already be the answer, right? It is attractive because they are here and they're conducting business here in Germany and not in Mexico, the US, Canada, or Israel. That's the first answer. Germany itself, we have to look into how do we stand as compared to others. If you compare Germany towards Europe or to the other world, right? What makes us attractive is what makes others not attractive anymore. And certainly, I would not name Germany number one country in the world for startups. There's better ones where you have better support and better stuff. But and here's a big but. Germany has the overall package that comes along with it. It's not, if I look at, let's say, UK or Israel or the US, where we have a lot of, government funding for certain topics that might be lacking, here in Germany. Here in Germany, you have a stable life, you have social security, you have healthcare, you have everything that's around that makes you be able to run your business. You're not able to run your business if you're at the hospital and you're sick. And you're not able to run your business if you have to be afraid of, threats or anything else in the world. So Germany basically provides a comprehensive package where I would say that it combines the value of life with the value of conducting and running your business. And you can see this in certain aspects. And of course, many would disagree or have other opinions. It starts with infrastructure that you have here. Yes, of course, in the cities, infrastructure is better. You have better internet connection, as you have in Ravensburg, for instance. Sometimes, even there, it's improving. Last time I checked. But bottom line is, infrastructure here generally works. You have a way of getting from place A to place B in a very short period of time. You can meet with other people. It is easy, it is straightforward. And that's something one has to put into relation to all of the other things. There are certain startup hubs that you currently have, for instance, in Berlin, where Galia is. You have Munich, you have Frankfurt, you have Hamburg coming up. Of course, there's a bunch of, I think even Stuttgart is doing some stuff now as well. You have those certain hubs, but what I've seen and recognized and realized so far is that also during the pandemic, this is not that important anymore. I'm part of an incubator, actually 3 incubators in London with a company. So I can tell you, the physical presence doesn't really make a difference, to be frank. So, but what does make a difference is, the way we're here. On the other hand, you shouldn't forget that Germany being in Europe is great in terms of the time zones. A lot of people don't even think about it, but it is strategically very well placed. Yeah. So if you're in the US, you're missing a lot of stuff out that's going on in the Asia Pacific area or in Europe even. So we are very well placed here. Of course, you could say, still say, I go to, Mallorca and work from Finca, right? But there you don't have, again, as mentioned before, the other advantages. On the other hand, in the last couple of years, a lot of experts really came over to Germany because they saw those benefits. Galia and Monica being two of them, recognizing here there is a big opportunity. It's a huge domestic market, in particular if you're German speaking. The German market is still a German market, right? That's why we have some parts of the discussion here of Deutsch. So there's specific reason why the domestic German market is still a huge one. So it is very attractive.
Well, you drew a very positive picture, but now let's tackle the issues a little bit. There are obviously some debates about the infrastructure in Germany. Of course, if you see it in a global relationship to other countries, it's very good. I mean, most countries or basically all countries in Africa can't really compare to the infrastructure we have in Germany and in other European countries. There's just a big difference. But there was a press conference in the United States in 2013 where Barack Obama and Angela Merkel met, and Angela Merkel stated, "Das Internet ist für uns alle Neuland." In English, the internet is new territory for all of us. And you can imagine the reactions to that statement because, well, basically, Germany was far behind in digitalization at that point. So do you think that this imposes a risk of falling behind in being attractive for startups and entrepreneurs? And what about the general transformation Germany has to go through? I mean, all the automotive companies in Germany seem to fall behind right now. And a lot of people have the idea that other economies are a little bit stronger and faster in this transformation.
So if I can take that, I think that coming here, the big cultural shock has been the fact that I have boxes of paper. I mean, seriously, guys, what is your relationship with paper? I mean, what is this? Seriously, I really don't understand. Why are you giving me so much paper? I don't understand. I don't want this paper. I use DocuSign or I use HelloSign. Just stop sending me things. I come to the doctor. I have like private insurance now. I'm in the public system. Hooray. And I was like, just let me pay. I want to pay. Stop sending the bill to my home. And you know how many times like the bill was lost and then it went to like collection. It's unbelievable. And if I would talk about the infrastructure, it's a bit of a joke. The internet here in Berlin, I could be renting a high-end penthouse Dachwohnung in Prenzlauer Berg with like such bad internet. It's embarrassing. Today, I almost lost a client. They almost lost a client, but we came into this like really intense discussion, and then they're looking at me like this. Oh, she's frozen. Like this is really ridiculous. So I think with regards to that, Germany, you guys, the students, the entrepreneur, the young entrepreneurs, there's an opportunity for you to digitize things a bit more. You kind of have to invest in really, really high-speed internet to do that. But I think it's a really good opportunity because enough with the paper.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
It's working that we're having this conversation right now, right? And for sure, I don't want to blame, I want to blame politics here, right? Because they screwed up, already 30 years ago, in our entire infrastructure network that we have here about, digital communication. That for sure, but it's working.
Yes.
Yes.
Can I join in just a second? I think that Patrick got it right. We need to take a look at the whole package. And whenever I talk to my family, it's painful because whenever I want to complain, they just tell me, "Oh, shut up! You live in Disneyland." And in a way, they're right. And I have to tell you, I have a lot of friends in the US, and yes, maybe they have better internet connections than we do, but they worry about school shootings. The political situation is so polarized that pretty much everyone I know is taking antidepressants right now in the US. It is really, you need to take a look at the full thing. But what I like the most is the fact that, yes, you're right. There is a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of digitalization. There are a lot of problems. And remember what I told you, that means opportunities. That means for you guys who are listening, there's a lot of stuff that can be improved. And again, it's not that everyone, I mean, this interview was already a few years ago, so people have understood, and the opportunities and the spaces are there for young entrepreneurs now to solve those issues. So, so you're not getting into the crowded Silicon Valley gang. You're getting into beautiful oasis with shitty infrastructure Germany. Sorry for that. Yeah. But you know what I mean? It's an opportunity. So you should thrive on it rather than complain about it. Let's get those freaking hospital or doctor bills automated. That would be a good start for someone.
You know what? I gotta make a comment. I start watching The Americans on Netflix, and by no means I'm getting any commission from that. But he talks about Russian spies in the 1980s, and I was thinking to myself, I love the 1990s. I mean, if I was a grown-up in 1990s and I loved the 90s music, it would be so amazing because I could like invent ICQ, which, they're Israelis. I could be like a billionaire, because there were so many opportunities in the 90s. Now, I'm not saying Germany is like 90s, although some elements are kind of like the 90s. I do have to say I love Germany. I chose Germany. Yeah, and the way Germany has been acting during the pandemic, it really is. I mean, I know there's problems with the vaccination, but it's exemplary. It's absolutely amazing. It's such a privilege to be here. And there is the whole package. And I actually decided that there's no other place in the world that I want to live in. I mean, I want to live in different places at the same time, but this should be the base.
But Monica's, and you as well, raising very good points. I mean, if you look back at the 1990s and so on, right? Which is very interesting because, it's,
I'm an 80s person.
I have, fully, lived in the 1990s. So the point is that actually the culture in Germany that you have is the Mittelstand, right? You have those SMEs, so small and medium-sized enterprises. So inventing stuff, creating new stuff, entrepreneurship has always been the backbone of Germans, of the German, entire country, to be honest. For that reason, I think that we missed a little bit out on the technology part. It's great on engineering and everything else. That's what Germany does, right? We're producing cars and machineries and all this kind of stuff. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities which might be also driven by politics, by education, that the technology piece and the entrepreneurship of thinking big, thinking outside of Germany might have lost or might have not fully developed, let's phrase it that way, over the years. And I think there's a huge room for opportunity because it's a non-satisfied market. If you go tomorrow to whatever Arbeitsamt and you just tell them, look, this is how you can make your processes faster with by using this app, they're probably just going to go for it.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we covered that topic. I have a bunch of questions we have to get rid of, and only 14 minutes are left, so we have to work a little bit faster on it right now. I have 2 questions in one for Patrick. Just give me a second to read it out. How did you come in contact with your clients when you started your business last year? I mean, it was really a different situation this time. And how hard was it to sell yourself as a product to these clients without having the opportunity to meet in person? And besides that, do you think it has become harder for young businesses to build corporate identity with workers being decentralized and the lack of physical contacts between them?
Okay, now we're 3 questions, right? I'll try to cover very shortly, but I think also Galia can add her. And all of us can actually add our comment. How do I get in contact with my clients? Either I know someone who knows someone. So basically they would say, hey, there's a demand. I have someone who can help you with, certain stuff. Secondly, is certainly online. It is through LinkedIn interactions, through communications, through chats, through communicating with people there. It is not the typical old way of sending emails out. Hey, I'm Patrick. I offer, those services that, forget about that. That's a waste of time, right? You have to have, and we discussed this earlier, right? And I think Gali also raised it. You have to have connections. You have to have the trust element. That's how you best get it, to your clients. How hard it is? It is quite hard. It's not something that you can easily just do and say, I'm going to shoot out 10 messages and then I have 10 clients. That's not going to happen. And you have to prioritize. You have to think about, where do you spend your time at? Do I want to have like 15 calls with someone before we engage in an actual business? Or, would I just say, look, to forget it, I focus on something else, because the time that you have is the most valuable thing. And that's the thing that you should be most worried about. And the third question I forgot, so you have to just summarize it for me again.
Building a corporate identity with workers being decentralized and the lack of physical context between them.
I can take that one, if I may.
Sure.
And also comment on what Patrick said. I'm really shitty in sales, I have to say. I've done a lot of customer service work when I worked throughout my engineering degree. So I'm not really a salesperson, but some people may say that I'm a very good salesperson. And the reason is because I always start with value. And there's different marketing courses that you can take that will teach you this. But essentially, if you are following the path of the entrepreneur that I mentioned before, and you get the expertise and you get your education and you get the experience and you try your idea and maybe you go to a hackathon, the most important thing is to provide value. Like, why is it that we do business, right? Why is it that we think clients are going to buy our products? Why is it that we think they're going to buy our services? Well, it's because we have something to give. So you have to find out what is your, what is it that you can give? What is that magical dust that you can sprinkle on people and make their life so much better? And then I do believe in having an online persona. I believe in being a public speaker. I'm also part of Toastmasters International. You should definitely look it up because it will teach you how to be a public speaker, and eventually maybe you become a TED speaker, which is completely, absolutely possible. And then what you do is you always talk about the value. If you remember my story about the ICO, the unsuccessful ICO, I was on stage and they asked me about blockchain, and I talked from the bottom of my heart of how blockchain can benefit businesses, and I gave specific examples. I never asked anybody to come and talk to me. I never said, come buy my product. And I never even said, come invest in my failing ICO. I never said that. And yet they came, and now they are engaged, and it's a huge, huge client that came out of it, actually. And the same goes for the hackathon, right? The hackathon, we all came together out of our time during the weekend. And we worked day and night to try and create this passport app that will give value to people. And then we started talking about it online. So if I'm doing different LinkedIn posts or Instagram posts or Facebook posts and I'm talking about the value, you automatically draw the right people to you. And I can tell you what you shouldn't do. If you look at LinkedIn, and I can send you a bunch of examples of how there's these templated sales bots and people that are like, I'm a business advisor, or I'm like a whatever, and I want you to buy my product. It never works. Like the sleazy sales guy, it's never going to work. I don't think so. You got to be more sophisticated than that,
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm going to book a course of yours.
Thank you very much. I think, now we have to really hurry up. I can cluster 3 of the questions together. And basically, the chat asked about a blueprint of founding a startup from the ideation process over funding and then going to production. I mean, obviously, it's very hard to make a blueprint out of it. I think it's not really possible. But how do you think you should think about your idea, how you should penetrate the possible weaknesses of your idea, how you can come up with a real business model out of that idea, and what should be the next step afterwards?
If I may suggest dividing this into 3s, you guys ready for that? I can talk about ideation and prototyping. Patrick, what do you want to take? I mean, Monica, you could talk about investment, right?
I'm going to talk about getting it done.
Well, you have a total of 4 minutes, so you have to hurry up.
I'm going to start. Okay, the most important thing is your idea. Yeah, you have to take your idea and you have to make as many people as possible to shred it into pieces. You have to take your baby that actually is not born yet, but your imaginary baby, and you need someone to crush that baby into pieces. And if your baby is strong, your baby is immune, and you will come up with a great idea. So I would say, write down your idea, do the different brainstorming around it, come up with a user flow, come up with a monetization plan. How are you going to get money? How are people going to be paying for your idea? Who are your users? Who are the personas? How does it look like from the UI UX? What are competitors out there, right? Do the whole, it's called requirements analysis, maybe with other people in that profession that can help you, and really try to narrow it down to the most, not even MVP, a POC, a proof of concept of what is your user flow from beginning to end, who's paying, who's using, what are the personas, and take it from the ideation to prototyping and development. And Patrick, I'll let you continue.
Yeah, very, very quick, right? Two important things. First of all, is know your fellows, know the people you're doing business with, and the team should work out. Make sure you're working with a team that can work out, because this is how many startups fail. That you come with an idea, but it suddenly doesn't turn out well, and you have discussions a lot thereafter. So make sure you really can work together in a very effective, efficient way, and you trust each other. That's very important. Second part that I would recommend is make sure that you have a very clear plan and path regarding your business model, your finances, your value proposition, your unique selling point. You know about your market, you know about your customers. So you basically need to be able, after that stage, where I'm leaving out the Monica in a second, at that stage, you need to be able to convince someone in a 2 minutes elevator pitch why they should buy your solution. And now handing over to the investment part.
Well, I'm not sure. God, this is going to be terrible. I actually, I think Patrick and Galia are smarter than me for this, so you should listen to them. I actually strongly disagree on what they just said. I think you need to apply design thinking, get your idea and prototype it like this, and go out and fail fast. You think you don't overthink it. Just put something out there and start working. And if it's going to fly, it's going to fly. But don't think about it too much. You know, you're going to have so many failures. You need to get going with those failures. Go, do it, fail fast. And of course, if you realize that, oh my God, it's working, and this dude, I actually can work with him, and oh my God, this is great, then you're going to figure out that you probably don't even want to get investment, right? But I would think, don't think about it too much, because there's just so many of us that we overthink things and we get paralyzed. And at least I'm one of those persons. And just, you know, you have an idea, just you have a pal, or you don't, just get it going, put it out there, you know, put something, create something, and fail fast.
Yeah. I think Monica, I can totally relate to this. I want to give you guys a little tip about bravery. Yeah. Bravery is something that you really have to master up to be a brave person, because if you're not a brave person, you won't get your dream job, you won't get your dream startup, you won't get your dream whatever if you don't dare. So I will tell you a little tip. How do I dare? I exercise dareness every day, and I put myself on a cliff where I have no choice. I have to jump, and I can crash or I can fly. So how do I do that? I actually I use Google for Business, and I implement the undo. If you guys know the undo action, there's like 30 seconds. You know, English is a second language. German is like I don't know, fifth language, really unsuccessful yet. And actually I started writing emails in German, and I just write, send, just send. But you have 30 seconds to review what you've done. So I mastered up to send, right? I got the courage to send. And then I review it, and then I go, oh, undo, because I found a mistake, right? But I did it. I dared.
So it's basically trial by error. You have no other choice than just to go out there and just try it. Another question. We don't have time for that. But Galia, another question was how to create a fail-friendly environment. Meaning, if you made a mistake in the past, how do you learn from it? How do you extract the lessons learned from a failed project?
Yeah,
Do you have any ideas about that?
You guys know the principles of project management. Lessons learned is part of the phase that you go into after you released a project, any project in life. And I think the most important thing is you have to catch yourself on time, and you have to be extremely honest with yourself, first of all with yourself and with your peers, and then collectively as a group, and I would even say with your client and your users. Of course, you have to kind of be very politically minded when you do that, but you have to catch it as soon as possible. You have to put it on the table, and you have to discuss it as a group. What is the best way? Why did it happen, right? Who was involved in that? What can they learn? And most importantly, what is the plan moving forward? How are we going to rectify the damage, if there was any damages? Are we going to stop damages from happening? And most importantly, just dust it off and just go back into the ring.
Okay, thank you very much. Only 2 minutes left for 2 other questions. Imagine you work in a very small startup in Munich, and you're not hit by COVID-19. Is there anything you can advise a young person working in that environment, how they can support their small company in a technical and in an interpersonal way? I know it's a hard question, but what is your general advice for someone working in a startup to bring the project forward?
Digitize everything. Stop with the paper.
If it had not been hit by...
not been hit. Just to bring it forward, to accelerate it a little bit more. I mean, how can you contribute?
There's so much change, to be honest. I think, Monica, you can answer better because you're part of those. You're part of this, those incubators here, no?
Yes, I am. I just, God, I don't know what to say. I think that what you need to do, whether you're at a startup or wherever you are, well, I can say something. There are so many things that no one is doing in a startup because it's all so chaotic, and it's sweat equity, and everyone is busy and everyone is trying to do everything. So what you can do to really bring value to a startup is try to figure out what are the big problems that no one is taking care of and solve them, whether they're your job or not. I mean, I guess the most important thing in a startup is make sure that people realize that you have their back. And it doesn't matter if you're the working student, it doesn't matter what your role is. If you see that people are aching, and in a startup, people are always aching, just go out there and help. Forget about job descriptions, just get in there and solve problems. And I think that's the best thing you can do in a startup or outside, but in particular in a startup.
Yeah, and I would say in general, during these times, and especially in your startup, you have to exercise compassion, right? People are going to make mistakes. People are very stressed today. You have to be very compassionate to try and see things from their eyes and work together as a group to support each other.
I mean, the easiest way is just, doing, trying, failing fast. And I know we got this question earlier, where it was about like complexities and setting a company and all this kind of stuff. It is not complex to set up, a company, a corporate, whatever in Germany. If you even need it, right? Try it out. Really go very quick. Challenge your ideas. Have someone tell you what's wrong, because your idea is not going to be perfect. Everyone is going to tell you this is how it works, and this is the reason why it's not working. Take the constructive criticism with you, because you need it. You should ask for it, actually, and develop it into the better. Because a lot of people will think like, that's my amazing idea. I mean, I'm not now concentrating on Munich and the time before COVID, but just understand that people are going to tell you that this is not going to work, and that's the reason why, and then figure out how to make it work. And if it then goes in the next rounds, you'll be successful.
Okay, I think that is a very, very good conclusion for our event here. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time left, but thank you very much for attending, and thank you very much, Patrick, Galia, and Monica. It was great having you. I enjoyed it a lot, and yeah, I think at this point we covered all the questions, and we're done.
Thank you, everyone.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much. Thank you soon.
Stay in contact. Bye.
Goodbye, everyone. Bye.
How do I get out?
Wait, you're stopping the recording? You stopped the live?